This podcast is brought to you by BLKCLD. And today
And Sherry's Berries.
we're at Sherry's Berries. We're at the Terminus City podcast, aka the bar. And today we have a very special guest here from New York City, Mr.EWOKONE.
Yeah, Mr. EWOKONE, all the way from New York City.
How you got? What's up, fellas? What's up, fellas?
Yeah, man. Yo, literally, you just escaped from New York. All right? You know, in New York, you got Snake Plissken. He's stuck there. He wants to get the fuck out. Do you feel like that shit every now and again?
Yeah, I definitely do, man. I mean, you know, I definitely ran to New York, but now, you know, I have. There was a time when I was trying to escape to New York. You know what I'm saying?
What do you mean?
Like in the '90s, I was a '90s kid. Came up, loved graffiti, loved skateboarding. We used to come down with a pack of little maniacs and go to Brooklyn Banks. And I just fell in love with like the energy. You know what I'm saying? And back then, like, you get kicked out of all the skate spots. So around like 5, 6 o'clock, all the finance bros would go home, and downtown was just a ghost town. Taxis, maniac taxis. But you know, we were scared to death in New York. So we came down like a pack of 11 kids on Trailways buses, and like
Over there at the Brooklyn Banks?
well, we would get off at Port Authority, which was like a hellhole.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm talking about like you'd be going down the little ramps, ollieing over homeless people. Like it was bad. But we had a couple older kids that were kind of like a little seasoned veterans, you know, and you know, so they kind of you just tag along with them. And if I missed the trip, I would just hear about, oh, you should have came with us last time, you know, it was fucking. And I hear all the stories. I'm like, all right, I'm going next time. And my hometown had a little Trailways bus, so that's how you got on. Anyway, so downtown Brooklyn and like just seeing the tags, and Brooklyn Banks is always fucked up. You know, there's always tags. And I don't know, I just fell in love with like seeing tags in different areas and just the energy in New York. And later on, friends of mine were like DJs, so like they'd be like, oh, my pops is driving me down to Canal Street to pick up a subwoofer, and I'm gonna go to this record shop to get some records. And I'd hit up like Soho's at and pick up like all the magazines and the videographs and like, you know.
What year is this? What year would that be?
It's all meshed together, but like I think around 93 to like must have been like 92 to like 94 window was like when we were like really exploring downtown, taking pictures in the daytime. I mean, this is multiple trips with like friends that you either were buying the Jibo, the Pro, Double R mixtapes, the master copies, and bringing them back up to my hometown, and then just like they had little hip hop shops, so they would like make recordings of all the mixtapes, which were like on everybody's car stereos. When they driving by, you hearing all the new the SNS and the fucking Kid Capris and all these like crazy mixtapes. This was like the soundtrack. They would all get it from my boy Sean, like Sean's Fast Stitches on Broadway. So he had like the early graph shirts and the fat caps, and like, so if it wasn't him going to the city or like friends that were DJs, I'd be like taking rides with my folks and just taking flicks on the highways and just seeing New York City from like a car. But later when I was older, I was able to kind of like penetrate through little areas and start recognizing names and tags everywhere. Like I was like, oh, these guys get around.
Your mom and your dad was down for like taking you to the city and like exploring like that?
I mean, like just...
Or you just passing through? Passing
through. Like sometimes I had relatives in Long Island, so you take, you know, you just pass through the city. And I knew I was going through the city, so at the time I just rack up on a bunch of rolls of film and just shoot them out the window. Bam, highways, flick, 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 everything I could possibly.
The old school photo shits.
Yeah, from the Bronx down. So it would start like in North, like Westchester. I'd start to see little trickles right through the Bronx. It was just overkill. Everything, every direction.
You got any of that still?
Tons. Tons. I got horrible photos up to the point where I realized that, like, let's say you're flying down the highway. If I saw it and I saw it going by and I kind of like tried to time it, it would be a little clearer than if I just held it still and it flew by. But I mean, I could still, and then I would develop the film on Monday. You drop the film off at a Walgreens before 11 a.m. I could get that rollback by Thursday at 4 p.m. So I have to wait all week to get that roll of film back just to look at the tags and the throw-ups and the fucking block letters on the highways, and then I would just digest it and fucking redraw it and do all that shit.
What was a notable name that stood out, man?
It's funny because I've had these conversations with my boy Risk 9, because he was coming from
Risk 9.
What up, Risk? He was coming from Springfield, Mass, kind of doing the same route into the city. So we saw a lot of the same shit. So the stuff that stood out to me was like TVT, Justin, my homies Justin, Ment, and Ness, and all these big black and white letters.
Chunky ass.
Yeah, and like big readable shit, like Louis 167. Shout out to Louis.
Louis, what up, man?
Stuff around Yankee Stadium. You saw crack. Like these were like big readable shit that I was like, oh, the formula is big, clean, readable shit. And so the highway era was definitely something that impacted us. At Risk 9 as well. So like a lot of people, I mean, the highways, everybody talks about the highways, but that was the stuff that I took with me. It was like readable stuff. Throw ups and bubble letters were more towards the people who were like foot patrol kids, like kids that walked in the Ville, people that went around the city, like maybe trying to like go all city with tags and throw ups. They had a much greater appreciation for like throw ups and like letter styles and tags. And I loved all that shit too. I came around later to it, but this stuff in the beginning was just like stylish.
Mostly in Brooklyn.
Those bubble letters and throw ups.
I
was seeing everything from Lower Manhattan seemed to be like the mecca where everybody was.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, it's all about Long Island highways, Queens highways, West Side Highway, little FDR, not too much in FDR, but like the big readable stuff was the stuff that stood out to me always.
So just TVT and all them were really like
they understood the drive by fast, get recognized, and you know. But there's tons of others. But those,
real.
I mean, you know, Med had like nice MED, like big readable shit. You would stand out to you, and I remember that.
So that time was like you kind of solo in that effort as far as like when you were going through, you were seeing everything in the city. You're just like, okay, I've seen that, I like that. I'm recreating like.
Yeah, that was fuel, and then like just energy that I was bringing back to my hometown with my homies that I roll with. I was in my school at the time, but this was just me trying to fucking absorb everything I could possibly see, and try and just put it into some sort of database.
Sponge mode. At that
point,
and
then at the same time, there was like around that time, I don't know about the same time, but around that time, there was like Chino had the source page. There was occasional magazines. Again, I said there was like Videograph at the time, so we had a couple of Videographs, and like everything that had graffiti, I just would like certain skateboard graphics. We were talking about that. Every time once in a while, you flip through like a Thrasher or something, there would be like a picture of an interior of a skate park. Some dude would be doing a big air. He'd be like in a photo, but in the background, it'd be like a burner on the wall. And immediately, I'm like, that's it. I got to get a fucking piece in the skate park. I got to fucking...
When you were going to the city and seeing all that graph and skateboarding at the same time, were you feeling like possibly you being pulled in two different directions with some of the... Where the skaters were like, yo, let's go. We're here to skate. We're here to skate. Yeah. It was like, yo, but see this fucking shit written on the wall, man?
Yeah. No, I wasn't really... I was in the daytime, so I wasn't actively trying to fucking get any ups. Till later. Like, that's a whole different era. But when I was going down to do shit, there was no skateboard involved. It was different. It was like I was like 14 years old with a bunch of older kids, and I literally was like, I'm a lefty, so I was painting with my left hand at like sketchy spots, and I had a fucking stadium bat up my sleeve because who the fuck knows who's gonna roll up on you? And you're just a parent.
Little tiny one.
Yeah. The old baseball games they would give away like the stadium bats.
12-inch dual slug.
Yeah. Like they don't give them shits away no more.
Now they make them with inside of
so like you'd either have that or like your homie would have a hammer or somebody else would have some stupid samurai sword knife. Like these little fucking some stupid shit.
Around like Ninja Turtles, man.
So I think like the first time I did a piece was like a horrible piece with Krylon colors at the Freedom Tunnel, 72nd Street Boat Basin, and this guy Ted One's 24/7 crew, HR, DF, stuff like that. He brought us to paint at the Freedom Tunnels, the bottom half, and it's starting to get. You know how shit is. You're like, oh, we're gonna go there, and you end up there like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Before you know it, it's getting dark. I'm using all fucking Krylons and like one can of American accents. My shit's not popping. It's getting dark. And I'm just like seeing these fucking people everywhere, like homeless dudes in the tunnels, and who knows if they're writers or whatever, but I'm just like, this is sketchy. So yeah, you're just rolling with like weapons and shit, doing horrible pieces and stuff. And then we went downtown taking tags, and my fucking idiot friends climbing a fire escape on some fucking bougie ass Soho, like a loft or some shit.
Right.
And we're in this parking lot. I remember, I never forget this. I think I was with my boy Rez. And this guy Sop, he's outside. We go into the dark tunnel. We're like trying to like look at the pieces on the walls in the dark around the corner from like Canal Street. I'm sorry, Broadway. And we just see a fucking DT flies into the parking lot that we're at.
DT.
Detective undercover, plainclothes, unmarked cop car.
To know.
Flies up into the parking lot, throws the brakes on us, and we're like, "Oh shit, what's going on?" They get out and blaze back out to the street, and we're like, "Oh shit, that's where homie was at." We didn't even realize he's trying to do some dumb shit, climb up and take tags high. They pull him down, and we I don't know if we ended up meeting him up a couple of hours later because this was no cell phones. They're just.
Like how you
This is us taking tags down in the Ville and doing dumb shit. But yeah, these are just early days, early memory. Anyway, long story short, I had an opportunity after around high school. I was like, what am I going to do after high school? I applied for a college in California. Applied for 2 colleges in Brooklyn. No, I'm sorry, 1 in Brooklyn, 1 in Manhattan. I got accepted in Brooklyn, but I couldn't afford it. So I was like, what the fuck? And at the time, it was depressing because all my friends that I was going to high school with were starting to be fuck-ups. I was on probation for 4 years during high school. And that was around the time when everybody's starting to experiment with drugs and all this shit. And so I was getting piss tested every month or every other month because it was a surprise type shit. But I had to be on my best behavior. I drink. We were fucking, everybody was drinking. No big deal, weekends. These dudes were starting to get fucked up. And I started to watch my homies getting fucked up. And I was like, this town. Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw this movie, It. Everybody who got out of town and went out and left town kind of did something with their lives, but the people who stayed there were sad, depressed, fuck ups. Some people killed themselves. It was just literally my town. So I was like, if I don't get the fuck out of this town, something's not. I gotta get the fuck out of town. So, fortunately, I was able to apply for financial aid because my mom, we didn't have that much money. You know what I'm saying? So I got financial aid, and for the first time in my life, I got fucking 4.0 grades in college. I got presidential scholarships. I never, trust me.
You were just motivated.
I was actually inclined to pay attention and learn. Yeah. It's the first time in my life, dude. I was fucking C's and D's and F's my whole life. I didn't give a fuck. I didn't give a fuck about school. I would learn. I would do the first 3 or 4 math problems fine, and I would just lose interest and just fail the rest.
Why did it change though?
I didn't give a fuck. Yeah, I just didn't care. I don't know. I just felt intrigued.
Feel like it actually mattered at some point.
I had great teachers and fucking philosophy and science, all that shit just interested me the first time ever. And so every year I was getting presidential scholarships plus the financial aid that my mother took out a huge fucking loan. To this day, my mom took out a fucking huge loan. She only paid it off 6 years ago.
Damn.
Seriously, I paid off my school loans 2 years ago. Yeah. She paid it off. I took out school loans and she took out school loans. Plus we had financial aid. Plus I had fucking a presidential scholarship for 4 years. And I still literally paid my school loans off 20 years later, 21 years later.
Were you living at home at that time, or did you actually live at the college?
I was at the college. Okay. Yeah, so I had a choice.
You had to deal with all that too as well.
Yeah, I had a choice in the summertime to either come back to my hometown for the summer, or you could work at the college painting the fucking dorms. And they would give you free housing, and you'd get $200 a week, which was pennies. But you had to wake up and fucking paint this tan fucking paint and ruin your clothes, and then that meant I could paint in the summertime. I was painting and going out and catching wrecked in the summers. Back to school, I was all business, but then on the weekends it was raging on the weekends. But anyway, so
raging on the skateboard or
nah. Skating sucked in the city because it took so much energy just to get to the cool spots. By the time you got there, you're fucking exhausted, and then you had to get home. So
when you went to the skate spots and you skated,
yeah,
were there other kind of locals that kind of held down the spot, and if they saw you, they're like, "Yo, where you from?"
Nah, I never had that issues. Never had skate issues in the city. I mean, I came up in skating, so I understood that. I understood that dynamic. You knew who the fucking badasses were at the spots. You don't snake them. You don't disrespect the people who literally are killing the spot because you know that they're fucking there every day. So the main spots we used to skate was BAM, which was right on Flatbush Ave, coming across the bridge, and the Banks, and a couple random financial spots. But BAM got demolished. That was our spot because it was closest to where we were in Brooklyn. But Brooklyn Banks was always the spot, but it was just always so beat up and grimy, and sometimes there was cars parked there. Yeah, you didn't want to fall. You probably catch some fucking disease, scrape your elbow.
Right there next to the highway and shit too. Everything flying off the side of the damn road.
Yeah, I mean, you know, those were just funny times. I always see fights and shit like that. And I just knew how to conduct myself. I'd never really got into issues.
New York was quite a different place.
Ah, yeah. So that's what we were talking about the other day. Like the candle that just keeps dimming is just not back the way it was. Yeah, like the candle feels to me like it's fucking just fading and everybody wants to fucking rekindle what it was.
Yeah.
But it's just a dimming light. Like culture's going away. The fucking people are turning to shit. There's no checks and balance to like conduct that just shouldn't be allowed in New York City. And like the city environment and the culture and the scene that I fell in love with is like a fucking neutered pit bull right now. Like there's shit happening in New York where it's not even the scene's not even checking their own. And like I don't condone some of the shit that's going on in New York, but some of these dudes that I used to respect literally sit and fucking break bread with shit that I don't condone. And like
snitch type stuff,
whatever, snitch shit, fucking sexual predator shit, fucking just people conducting themselves like fucking bitches, and like people will sit and fucking break bread with these dudes, and that ain't the shit I signed up for. So
why is it that they allow themselves to kind of like
they're playing diplomatic immunity? They want to just sit around and like not stir the pot and just allow the shit to fucking just go on.
Is it monetary reasons? Is it
probably?
What are they getting out of it?
Is it like why?
Because they're also the light that I'm talking about is dimming for everybody at the same time. So everybody's trying to fucking hang out with people that still got the same love, and they just want to enjoy the time that they have. And nobody wants to deal with the fucking elephant in the room. Like I get it on some level. Like, oh, that guy's an asshole, but you know what? I don't want to fuck up. I don't want to fuck up what we got. We got a good thing. I don't want to fuck it. I don't ruffle no feathers. Let him be on that side of the room. But that's not. I don't care. Like,
long ago, it used to be like I see people kind of keeping themselves on the low because of like getting caught by the Vandal Squad, being caught by just other little things of that nature, or even being at crossed odds with other crews.
Yeah.
So now I'm like. That sounds like that's all out the window. It sounds like more like it's other forces.
So there used to be a checks and balance even before me. I'm talking about what I saw.
Okay.
There was literal big crews that would be like gatekeepers. I don't want to say gatekeepers in a sense. I don't want to. That's before my time. I'm talking about like there's crews that like if somebody was acting a certain type of way, they got checked in places.
Checked as in like what? Explain
fucked up, straight up fucked up. Beat the fuck down. And like a lot of times people got beat the fuck down just because they just got beat the fuck down. Like that was just in the mix also. But there was certain people that would like, I don't want to use gatekeepers because that's not the right term. Like quality control at the front lines. Okay. People would be around and just shit that wouldn't fly just would get checked at the door. And slowly motherfuckers are just like, I'm too old for that.
At that time,
I'll keep it cool. Yeah.
People who were doing that gatekeeping, what exactly were they checking? What is a
just quality control, man. Like
style or like
no. I just think like just bitch behavior would just be checked. And I'm not talking about when I see that dude, I'm gonna give him my mind, like tell him what I think. No. Like they just weren't allowed. Like I'll never forget this shit. Like. One of the first times I hung out with Task Crew, they had like an aura that like when I came into the scene, I was a talented kid, and just by I guess Soz and these dudes who kind of like brought me around were cool with me, I was sort of like allowed in, and but they right off the bat let me know, yo, shit. It wasn't like this. Like, you didn't just roll up in the spot because you were talented. Motherfuckers would get vic'd. So they put me on quick. They're like, homie, you're in because you're talented. Like, but to keep it real, like, this shit wasn't sweet. Motherfuckers didn't just roll up in here. So immediately I was like, oh shit, I better fucking act my position and stay in my lane.
Was it Bio that told you that? Or
I don't remember, but I remember I had heard stories about tats and this, so I knew what it was. I'm keeping it real. Like, I knew what time it was. I'm a fucking out-of-towner. Respect your fucking elders. And I'm sure the checks and balances had been going on long before I even stepped in the fucking scene. So for me to start coming around, I was like, all right, I got to respect these dudes. they're letting this is like 97. Like they put me on the Park Ave wall.
How old were you, like, at the time when you had to kind of realize that?
20-ish, 20, maybe 20, 21, maybe 96, 20-ish, something like that.
So right then and there, you caught on quick.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you're
21s now, they don't catch on.
Yeah, there's an order to things that you see it like.
Yeah, and this is not just me. I'm just speaking for what I understood. I mean, and I'd seen other things. I've been to a few graffiti jams prior to that, and like I could catch the vibe. 90s was different. You could kind of walk in the room and see what's going on. If not, you're getting jumped. Like I grew up in high school dealing with shit like that, so like you can tell if something's about to go down. But anyway, so they were in a sense showing me what the fuck it was without having for me. They didn't know. I kind of knew a little bit coming into it. They were just saying, "Look, man, like this ain't always been like this. Like you know." And I heard stories about things going down. But anyway, so yeah, years later, as things go on, I would see things happen. I'm like, oh yeah, no doubt. That out of towner came into town, thought he was something, and the locals checked him. Like I remember one dude came from LA doing billboards. Homies downtown, checked him at a bar. And that dude left town.
12 months?
What's that?
Year?
No. Year paid dues. He came in, paid dues. Okay. That's the thing.
There used to be a guy named Year.
Yeah. No, he's still around.
He's from Cali and is known for.
Yeah, he's still around. He's paid dues. See, the thing is, like, if you conduct yourself properly and respectfully, motherfuckers will show you love, man. That's really. It's like. But there's certain types come and they feel like they gotta keep this aura, like I'm the shit, and like fuck all y'all, and I'm gonna do what I want. And these are like it used to be, maybe not no more. They used to be like, no, homie,
not in this house.
Yeah. We may allow it for a little bit, but if you overstep your boundaries, someone's gonna hook off on you. Like it's just the way it is. And you know, I've seen it many times. I'm just bringing up one example, but yeah, one dude came, tried to do a little wild shit. And yeah, you might do some wild shit, but they're gonna check you at fucking Max Fish that Friday or whatever. If you're acting stupid, a lot of dudes came, did it right, and even the locals were like, "Hey, what can you say? He's putting it in. Right. He's not going over fucking RIP tags and respecting what's already there, established, paying dues, doing it correctly. Many people have done it properly and got respect. Curse, rest in peace. He did it. Attic, he came, did it properly. Certain people come to town and do it like to where the locals who have been here for a long time that have done it in their minds correctly, see a dude come and do it correctly and they're like, yo, that actually gets me inspired to do that shit. Look at the way he's doing it. He's coming in a time when it's like a police state and still getting over. And so certain people have done it. Other people, as soon as they leave, this shit just gets destroyed. As the police
situation and everything like that over in New York up some?
It's always changing. Like COVID fucked it all up. COVID was a free for all. It brought out a bunch of toys who would normally not go out and do anything. And
I think that's one thing that I'm wondering just from the outside.
Yeah.
I guess us being in Atlanta, like looking and seeing what's happening in New York, all we get is TV brain fodder.
Yeah.
So we don't really know what's going on in New York.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, of course, we're going to a real small niche subject, but at the end of the day, one used to think that New York had a very, very police state aesthetic going on.
For sure.
But then there's been some wow out as of the last few years. Of course, we know why. But then I wonder what the result is as far as like, whether it be graffiti, gang member stuff, or things of that nature.
It's still going on. There's a lot of gun shit happening right now, and there's a lot of inner hood beefs that are getting like ironed out, I guess you could say. I mean, from what I see, a lot of the shit that's going on now is like hood shit that like someone sees somebody that they had problems with maybe, and they're just. The thing is, COVID allowed people to walk around with masks on cameras. Like, you understand what that means? Like, if I got beef with somebody, now's the time to go check him at his spot, like with a fucking mask on. So a lot of shit was happening. Yeah, exactly. So on top of that, there was a big police. I think it was like the union head of the NYPD got arrested for some shit. So on top
of get defunded, did they do like some
on top of this arrest that I'm talking about, like there was a big protest. Like the police were like basically saying like, "Oh, you want to defund us? Yeah, well then fine. Watch what happens when we don't fucking do this." And it was like on top of the fact that they were all getting sick and whatever. The cops were getting sick. There's a lot of people getting sick. Didn't want to go back to work. They just didn't want to they didn't want to even or put somebody in the car and arrest them. Who the fuck wants to get locked up when you got COVID, people coughing around you and shit? So unless it was like a real fucking bad thing, these motherfuckers were just driving past people. Like, as a writer, that sounds like a fucking perfect little vacation. But like, a lot of people turn them off. Like, well, I don't want to like get up now because then it just looks like you're only getting up because of that. And like, right when it ended, a lot of motherfuckers was just like, oh well, these dudes' vacations are over, back to the real life and shit. So like, you know, it was dope to see a lot of people come back and shit. But we saw people getting up that never fucking took a tag prior to that shit. It's just like, come on, dude. Like, these guys aren't built for that regular shit. They're just doing it now because it's fucking a freebie.
They got a fucking Wild West.
Yeah, it's a freebie and shit. So
no risk.
No risk.
Yeah, they're like way less of risk.
So the shit that I was respecting was like certain people were going out the fucking month when dudes was just scared to go out of the house. It was like ghost town. And motherfuckers were going out and crushing fucking stations, whole stations, with like 30 fill-ins. And then they would go to like the other side of the city and do like 30 fill-ins in the stations. And dude, I'm talking about like people were scared to leave the house. That first month was sketchy, dude. Motherfuckers were not coming out the house.
Y'all had some serious like lockdown shit too.
Serious lockdown shit, like 7 p.m. type shit.
We had like 2 weeks of lockdown.
Yeah. You know, they had like curfews and shit, and everyone was worried that you're gonna get pulled over in the car. And I was painting a wall in this lot, and they were like, "Oh shit, it's like 6:50. We gotta get home." I'm like, "They're gonna fucking arrest us." And we're like out at 7. I'm like, "Fuck, what's gonna happen?" And like, there's no one on the street. We're driving through the city, empty, running red lights. It was crazy. I was like, "This is some insane shit." We didn't know what was gonna happen. The lady downstairs from me.
Yeah, you told me about
got taken out on a stretcher. That bitch never came back. Straight up, rest in peace. We watched her leave on a stretcher with the lights blinking. She got COVID. I'm moving out of my house 6 months later.
Like in New York, they couldn't even fit people in the morgues.
Dude,
they were in the streets, literally in fucking
back
of trucks and stuff like that.
It's actually horrible. Like they couldn't fucking fill trucks up with bodies fast enough. Yeah, it's insane, dude. They were finding U-Haul trucks that they had rented like months later with just they opened the door and there's like bodies in it.
Taking over schools and stuff like just to build coffins and shit.
Yeah, it was horrible.
The whole time you were in New York and stuff was kind of at full swing. Did you think to just say, "Yo, I'm gonna take a fucking vacation and go like get away from the nexus of all this craziness"?
Nah, because even like flights weren't even rocking like that. I mean, you could, I'm sure. I mean, a lot of people just did that whole like buy a van and drive out, do that the van thing, which was kind of silly to me. But like,
I would be scared to death being in that close proximity to all the people.
Yeah,
and not knowing. Of course, we're here in Georgia. We don't know what the hell's going on. So if by contact was what was going to be the catalyst, you think, man, I better get out of the worst of it. Where
I mean, you just weren't going out. I mean, a lot of people just weren't going out. They were just getting in the car and going places. But like, the cities, just by design, you're on top. You're built. It's just you're on top of people. It's congestion. That's why it was really bad in New York. And it's funny because as bad as it was in New York, because I had seen it street level and how it was actually hitting the people around me, I was watching fucking idiots on YouTube in like Arizona and like down south, like arguing, "This is fake. It's all made up. You're all followers. You're all idiots." And I got people DMing me going, "Hey, I'm in Arizona. I'm arguing with my uncle about this. Like, what do you see? Do you think it's fake? They're saying this stuff on the news about these hospitals getting it's fake." I'm like, "Listen, motherfucker, I'm seeing this shit every fucking day. People are dying. The ambulances are picking people up in the houses next to me all over. This is weeks and weeks of this shit." I'm like, "I appreciate you asking me. Don't waste your time arguing with your fucking idiot uncle because it don't matter. The guy's an idiot. You're not going to convince this dude. Like, just wear a mask and stay away from idiots." That's all I can say.
Once shit kind of got into a swing, like as far as like, yo, you're on lockdown. Did you feel any kind of like depression? That shit like
not me. It was funny because me and my girl just stayed in the house and we were getting wrecked all like heavy. We getting fucking mangled. We made this shit. We were making quarantinis where we were taking you get the acai flavored vitamin C packs. So it's just, and we were mixing it with like vodka with like a seltzer, and we were just fucking getting mangled. We were like just like And I mean, we were going through this thing drinking so much, it was hilarious. But like at the same time, we're watching people who were married for like 15 years getting divorced because it's the first
Never
time.
spent that much time together.
Yeah, it's the first time they're like forced to like actually like not go to work and like live with the person they married. Yo, mad marriages and relationships ended because of that shit. We were cracking up. We're in there hysterically laughing every night, fucking. Yo, we had the best time. Like, I need another one. I need another COVID, like, straight up.
Well, what about your work and shit like that?
Oh, man, I fucking wrote a book. I fucking chilling. I was doing everything. Yeah, I had a blast, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, I need another COVID lockdown.
When that happened, when you were sitting there and you're like, yo, I need something. I want to do something. Why did you want to go into the book? Why the book route as opposed to, I don't know, I want to do a
canvases.
Canvases or
I did canvases too, but like the book thing was just I realized like through the years I would always kind of think of a topic and then maybe while I was on the train I would just like jot down a little rough like
what's the name of the book?
The name I was here just because I wanted to capture something that like is simple that symbolizes what the rawest part of graffiti is, but also like
you were there.
Yeah, I was there. Well, yeah. It's basically about it sort of like just encapsulates all the things that I've kind of through trial and error have figured out for myself. That's the I was there part.
What was the first chapter that you were just like, all right?
It's not, none of this shit's in order. That's the thing. It's like it literally can be read out of order. But these topics were in my notebooks for years, a lot of them. So I just basically compiled all these notebooks because I knew I had writing all over the place already. There's like chicken scratch, crazy shit. So I had to pull it all together, big crazy stack of just nonsense, chicken scratch. I had to like decipher my own words. Some of it wasn't even relevant, but it was just like daily shit that was happening.
Yeah, so I have in your brain, you had to get it out.
Yeah, I have a lot of stuff that was just like, oh, today was crazy, like this, yeah. But that's not what the book is about. This book is about technique, formula, things that I've kind of evolved myself, my approach, my way of looking at things, letter structure, lighting, shadows, folding letters,
but also history,
color
too?
Theory. What's that?
But also history?
I dive into some history stuff, but I'm not trying to be a historian with this stuff.
Yeah.
So like I do talk about certain things that I think are very important for like the growth in the timeline of like graffiti. But if I don't have that, like if I wasn't there, I tried to reach out to a specific person who I know knows what that shit is about. And
so there's your personal like philosophy and your technique.
Yeah, and things that were happening at a specific time that he's involved in at certain chapters. Mm-hmm. And so like I reached out to him for certain shit because I think there was groundbreaking things happening at specific times that I felt like aren't talked about, and no one's going to talk about it until somebody just misrepresents it and then maybe says a wrong year and maybe somebody else claims some shit. I'm like, nah, I have to actually put this shit in writing, and if you feel like you can check it, by all means, I dare you, because you're not going to be able to. I've already like played chess of like, well, if I say this and someone says this, no, because here is this already saying.
Show the receipts for all that stuff.
All the receipts are there, and like, yeah, motherfuckers like drama. So at a certain points of like talking about things, I had to add a few little interesting points at things, and so there's some drama in there because I know people are going to enjoy it. I'm sure it's going to piss off a lot of people, but that shit will come and go. Anyway, the timeless stuff is in there, and there's chapters that are just very important chapters, and like there's important people in it that have gone directly to the sources because I know when I was developing shit, certain other things were happening at the same time that was super impacting in the scene. So I needed to go to that person for them to explain what was going on in their head at that time while we were developing our shit, kind of like in the shadows of it. So there was certain things that were blowing up at the time, allowed us to kind of have a vacuum and not be offended or affected by like, because we weren't copying shit. Other people were copying shit. That was a perfect time for us to kind of continue doing our thing without scrutiny. So there's a lot of cool shit in there. Yeah. And we were in two different cities. So like we had similar thoughts and different approaches, but we were on the same frequency. And like we would we'd be like going out and doing our thing. And every once in a while we kind of like link back up. And then we would go again and then link back up. And at each time we're like, check this. Right. And then
playing off each other.
Yeah. And then we would constantly like, through the years. So
you think like after you drop the book, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that the book would be more embraced by New York or by the larger United States, or even farther, like?
It's interesting. I think
world.
Nowadays there's people elsewhere that appreciate more of like the foundational stuff, the letter structure, certain approaches that maybe other people in the city may have maybe not appreciated, or people have just moved on and they don't do it as intense maybe as we would do now. So yeah, there's people who would love, I think, to have the access to this type of shit, but maybe no one's ever really presented it to them this way. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of people in the city that if it seeps in, they're going to be like, holy shit, like this is incredible. Like the scene needs this right now.
Older or younger?
Maybe younger, maybe some older people who appreciate lettering and stuff like that. But globally, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to pick it up and they're going to benefit from it. But my goal was to write something that's timeless. So in 20 years, 30 years from now, people are going to pick it up and go, yo, what the fuck was this guy doing with these people at the time? And like, it's still, relevant today. Like, I think this stuff is, my whole goal is to make this stuff timeless. It's not trendy. This is not no flavor of the month.
So do you think some people might take this as like a blueprint for their personal style going forward?
Yeah, definitely. So I wrote it in, and I say it in the book, like, these are all really important tools for you to take and put through your own filter. I'm not trying to start a fucking cult and like have people looking like, the last thing I want is people to just start looking like my shit. But there's tools here and approaches and ways of looking at your own stuff and breaking your own flaws down and like taking a step back to shoot forward. And like, you may be already really nasty, but now this is going to actually break you through that ceiling that's been holding you back. And like, as long as you understand these formulas, they're tried and true, they're fail safe. You can't fuck it up. It's all like very simply put to you. And it's valuable shit. But anyway, I don't want to talk about it.
Would you say that the formulas that you're breaking down, would you say that they're based mostly in the traditional New York way of a graffiti approach, or could it transcend just the original paradigm that made?
It's both. It's both. This stuff that I'm talking about, obviously, because I'm a graffiti, letterer. I love letters and stuff like that. This is stuff that any graffiti person who loves letters is going to be able to apply to their lettering. But a lot of these tools could be for a fucking painter, a dancer. Like, these are just ways.
Could any of this be misconstrued? Like,
not at all. It's all fleshed out. There's no confusion. This is not vague. People aren't going to look at it and be like, what the fuck is he talking about? I'm talking to two people. I'm talking to the person who has no idea about graffiti, that just loves street art and wants to know what this crazy stuff on the wall is. But I'm also talking to the very experienced graffiti, someone that's been around for the black belt that's been around for 25 years doesn't feel like they're getting talked to by like simpleton. Like, I'm talking to two different audiences. So that was a hard thing to establish.
Yeah, to bridge that's a big gap.
Yeah.
When you were actually like thinking of it in that term, right?
Yeah.
It almost draws a bit of a comparison of a parallel to your jiu-jitsu time. We're actually really heavy in the jiu-jitsu stuff. I felt like when I was talking to you, you had mentioned that book a while ago to me, right?
Yeah.
When you were talking about it, I was like, okay, he's on his samurai shit. He's on his like, I'm gonna compile these things together, and I felt like there was a sense of urgency and discipline that was going behind where you're going with this. Did some of that come from your training? Absolutely.
So the thing is, I mean, not everybody knows about jiu-jitsu. It just sounds like some other martial arts shit, but jiu-jitsu comes from an offshoot of judo that went to Brazil via Japan, and the Gracie family learned it from Japan, separated the throws from judo into the nuwaza, which is the ground fighting, which is just the grappling. And they took this Japanese art form that was around for who knows, centuries or hundreds of years, whatever, and they broke it down. So like, this is already something that's been created. let's take graffiti, for example. But the Gracie family understood how to break it down to a science to where it's now teachable in a way that has never been taught that way. So the Brazilian jiu-jitsu is a different form of jiu-jitsu, even though it all comes from Japan. And there's no misconstruing that, everybody knows that. But the Gracie family is known for how they gave it back to the world. That is being copied and copied because it's a formula that makes sense. And like the beauty of that is it's like problem solving, but there's a counter to everything for the most part. But like if it's not something that works, they get rid of that shit. It doesn't really stick around long because it's karate may have some things where they just teach katas and like stupid blocks, and it becomes tradition as opposed to a foundation that has relevance.
Functional.
So I saw this in jiu-jitsu and I realized graffiti is not really packaged in a way for people to absorb it in a way that like it's lost in translation, dogs. Like people are doing stupid shit out of tradition that is fucking dumb. And they're teaching people, or they're just biting stuff from other people. They don't know why. When the building blocks and foundation of graffiti and lettering is like building a structure. Like if you're building it with a foundation correctly, the sky's the limit. But if there's no one teaching you foundation, or you don't understand structure and foundation, and you're doing dumb shit out of tradition, there's no strength. It's just going to collapse, which is like looking at someone who doesn't have a good solid piece, like they're doing a dumb piece, just garbage. You don't want to look at it. So I think in that sense, I realized like somebody took the time to break down jiu-jitsu. So I wanted to put something out for people in the future. Because I mean, like we've done trials and we've figured shit out that works and doesn't work. Like we know just through trial and error, like what doesn't work and what works and what makes a good piece. And
just like with the Brazilians and the Japanese, right? I almost feel like New York is Japan in that sense, and like some other countries are like Brazil at a time. So let's say, for example,
like for sure,
guys, like Bando and like Mode and like some of the French guys, they
took the right stuff.
Got
rid of the bullshit.
Got rid of the bullshit. Just for tradition's sake.
Right. Yeah, and when I came around, these guys were already established and they were nasty. Bando, Mode 2. Hex, Slick, Risky. There's certain people that weren't even from New York City that maybe they took the trip to the Mecca. Dream for sure, dude. Like whatever it is, they touched the fucking the source and brought back just brilliance, just from being in the aura or like the perimeter of the source, the energy. Maybe a lot of Europeans took that venture back to New York and then left, and they're like the kings of their era, their area,
I think they would go like a trip to New York, like a trip to Mecca.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was like they were really kind of just immersing themselves in what true funk is.
Yeah.
What that real New York funk is.
Exactly.
And I think that's why I'm trying to draw a comparison. That's why I'd asked you. Because when you think about it, right, it's almost similar whether we're talking about jiu-jitsu or b-boying. So like b-boying, of course, we have a huge connection to b-boying.
For sure.
Being b-boys and so on and so forth. But the biggest thing is that when you really boil the thing down, right, it's once you seek out the original, the Mecca, where it comes from, and so on and so forth, and then you change it, you rearrange it, and then bring something beautiful back to the art in itself. Right?
Sure.
So as we go, like the same way it was with jiu-jitsu with you, we even did the same thing with breaking.
Yeah, so there's a lot of parallels, and like the people that we know, we've taught like through dance, we taught people who are incredible b-boys how to do graffiti, and I always have to come back to these comparisons, like, oh, it's like this guy who's doing this and that. It's like there's always a comparison or a parallel to this. Same thing like with breaking, like, it started in the Bronx, but there's dudes, when I came back around in like 91, 92, 93, I was seeing like Easy Rock in LA, and he was insanely good. And Storm was in Germany. So like, again, they touched the energy and the source, brought it back to their place with a formula, and just blew up.
Took it somewhere different.
Yeah, and then it comes back around. Because these dudes are now coming back to New York, inspiring me in Brooklyn.
Let alone
Florida. Oh, yeah, forget about it. Florida, too. Florida is like the sixth borough. Like, Miami, what the hell was going on in Florida, dude? Flip Side, Skill Methods in Florida. Like, all the stuff that came out of, like, Florida, And like I remember seeing Tells and his brother View on Rock City Anniversary. These dudes were little kids, baseball jerseys, crushing the game. I was like, who the fuck are those kids?
And who had that?
And they were like,
in your face,
yeah.
New York style almost.
And they were like from Florida. I was like, what? Those kids are from Florida? Yo, it was insane. And style, like it looked like just like New York style was crazy. So in that sense, like, yes, there's dudes on the other side of the world now who are doing graffiti that are fucking incredible. And like even OGs in New York come to me and like, yo, do you know about this dude? And I'm like, no. They're like, look at this shit. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I guess he's incredible. I've never heard of this dude, but like he's clearly, he'll fucking paint me circles around me. You know people that you're dialed into like just on the frequency that I'm not familiar with, but they're insanely good. But there's always, it feels like there's a little something missing. Not always, because I don't want to just start like trying to like critique everybody, but like,
no, I mean,
but there's people out there.
Even if you had to critique somebody, it would have receipts clearly.
Yeah.
So,
but it's all taste level and stuff like that. So,
but the other thing, you know, you had brought up that, you know, with the B-boys and stuff like that, who have, you know, changed the game and all this kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
You've actually some of those B-boys to get into the writing aspect and have more than one element on their jacket. Normally there's 4 elements. There's 5 elements apparently, but 4 elements. You know, the clear B-boying, break, what do you call it, DJing, graffiti, and MCing. Now with all those 4 things, of course our era,
there's not many crossovers. Yeah, there's not many crossovers.
There's not many crossovers. So a few of those B-boys that we call brothers, and even some that, you know, we respect, feel inept in a lot of the times with that stuff, and they seek us out to say, hey, I want to add your element to my program.
Yeah.
What is that shit like when you actually have to like almost teach these guys like a baby?
Yeah, it's funny because you find some of the B-boys who are like the most incredible B-boys because their heads been just in the ciphers for so long, and their heritage and their crew that they came up with is just, that's their focus. And then you're like, and then they're coming to me like, yo, what do you think of this tag? And what do you think of what do you think of these letters? I want to paint this piece. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So it's cool because I respect so many of these dudes that like, you know, there's guys like I literally watch them grow as artists, like graffiti artists, like, you know, and this is not taking anything away from them, but like, you know, everybody sucks in the beginning. But like if you're around good people and you got around good guidance, yo, man, these dudes are off to the races, like Heps, Technique. Like these dudes are crushing it now.
Great guys.
And they love to just get away from the B-boy stuff and paint a fucking piece and take some tags and shit. And like I get proud when I see them traveling to a B-boy jam and they're judging the jam, but the next day they're with the fucking painting trains. They're painting trains in Italy and shit. I'm just like, damn, it's just crazy, right?
Yeah. I'd like to take a quick second. Give 3 B-boys who are good at graph.
Okay,
so we gotta give them their flowers. Have a chance to do it because
we know who they are.
All the way funky.
We know who they are. It's very rare. Nowadays, it's not as rare, but when we were coming up, it was very rare. It was you, me, and Teal was the only takeaways that I knew at the time. I know Easy Rock likes letters. I know Wiggles is a fucking he knows his shit. But there wasn't many, man. Like I mean, I'm sure in other countries where they really love hip hop, that's like you see more of it. But like I didn't know any. It was you, me, and Teal that could really hold it down on both.
Right.
And like Teal was always like really incredible at b-boying. So like in my mind, because I said I saw him come to the city with his brother. Like I didn't know who he was back then. Years later, I'm like, yeah, that was that little kid. And now he's an adult and shit. And we're painting in LA and shit like that. So Teal, shout out to Teal. Teal's always been the homie. So. But yeah, for a long time it was just the 3 of us in the scene coinciding. And
now some time has passed.
Yeah, now some time has passed. People paint. You got like Why Not paints, fucking.
Shout out to Why Not.
Who else? Who else paint? Heps paints.
So I mean, what about some of the Florida B-boys like the?
Grab holds it down.
Quite good.
Grabs.
I gotta give a little bit of credit.
He used to practice with us at
Grab's nice.
I know Tragic.
Tragic, yeah.
But more like actually relevant is
can hold it down. Anybody can practice, but
this dude Pluto.
Okay.
I think he's from Roughneck Attack
from Ukraine.
Yeah, the Ukraine.
I didn't know he wrote.
Okay.
Exactly. But see, that's the thing. Like he's like real with he bombs trains.
What about there's the 7 Cents dudes that
Oh yeah, $7.
$7. Sorry.
Was it Amjad? Shout out to Amjad.
Yeah.
He's got
$7.
Nice,
Yeah.
He's got some pretty. Oh, Kid Cash.
Yes.
He's pretty nice too.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the ones that are the big standouts as far as current.
Yeah.
Current, like in the year 2023, I'd be like, okay, I would not mind having him on the wall. There's some guys, they're on their way. Like, okay, I'm gonna give Bourne his due. He's trying. Shout out to Bourne, Rivers Crew, right? Rivers Floor Gangs. It's hilarious. I am on his neck all the time about it. But I can tell he loves it. And from the stuff I've seen, I'm like, okay, he's trying. Shout out to Zeshin from Habikoro. He, great kid, great, very humble guy. Of course, dyed in the wool b-boy, nice, but really was active on trying to do his graph. And I'm like, okay, I can see maybe could use a little bit more influence in a rock bottom way. But other than that, there are way more examples than when we were kids.
For sure. I mean, like I said, I don't want to dive back, but that book is perfect for these types.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So the point being is that like some of these people who they may respect us like on a graph level, but they know that they can kind of understand that we can see from where they're coming from, being the fact that we know what it's like to be in that cipher. We know what it's like to be on that floor, because me being a Flipside Kings member, him being a Skill Methods member, this being BurnUnit crew, also tied to Foundation Japan, we're not coming from a place where it's like, well, we really don't know shit. Like, anybody know anything about DJing really? No, that's not really our lane.
I don't know shit about DJing.
Exactly. I don't know shit about it.
Give me 20 minutes, I'll make a record play. That's about it.
So we can talk about like in that respect.
Yes.
So when I'm almost just doing a little bit of like auditing on what we've seen out there as far as the growth of the multi element Renaissance person, dope into games like Pee Wee Kirkland.
Yes.
So hopefully.
Yeah, everybody loves it, but who can hold it down on both worlds? Like we were crushing ciphers. Like I was in it's whatever. I don't want to get into it. Yeah. So there's
crushing ciphers. You were, dude. Let's not skim past that one, because you were heavy. Especially, I would see him in Rocksteady Anniversary all the time. We'd be in like every little cipher in there,
pockets,
and right out there on the damn pier, getting down on them nasty ass floors. And even to then, it's not like, oh, jumped into the breaking scene.
Yeah, no.
3/4 of the way into our graffiti scene.
People don't realize I've actually been b-boying longer than I've been writing graffiti.
Yeah.
So it sounds silly to say that, because like everybody's like, oh, I danced in the 80s, but like in second grade, I was in a talent show, and all the older kids in my neighborhood were like doing b-boying. So like I just picked it up by just being around it. So when it came back and I was actually old enough to kind of like sneak into clubs, and I was like in my later teens, I would see certain people throw down and do like certain moves, like, oh, I know that stuff. And so I would just start bringing it back in. So like I picked it back up around like 91, 92, around when Public Enemy came out. People were starting to like, and then like
bring it back a little bit.
Started bringing it back, and like Shelto Adidas came back out, and Puma Clydes got re-released. And then I was going to like these rave house clubs, and like people were throwing every once in a while. You see,
that's the thing. Like when I started, like it was honestly it was like raves and shit.
You
could find that shit.
I don't know if this is still recording, but there was like crazy shit was going on at the time.
I'm gonna hit the bathroom too.
The break. I thought you had a stool. You gotta get stools back there.
Reza's got the stool right now.
Man,
that's why you get grab the seat.
You're talking about good stuff, but yeah, it's probably gonna be too long. You can chop all this stuff up.
No, grab is nice.
Yeah, when I would go to Art Basel, I would be like exhausted from painting, like I'm right now, like exhausted. And they'd be in 004, like, yo, let's throw down. The music be on. I'm like, dude, I'm fucking exhausted. You want to break? And like him and Tragic are like doing circles around me. I'm like, dude, come on, bro. I'm exhausted. But yeah, I remember going to these fucking clubs, and like every once in a while, like some dude would just start doing windmills, and I'd be like, oh shit, people still do that. And I'm like, I can still do this, like a little footwork, backspin to like a goofy freeze. And then like, it started really coming back. Like I was telling you about that video, and seeing like we watched that Lighter Shaded Brown video came back around. And I don't know if that was like one of the first things I saw, but it was around that time. And I was saying this West Coast shit. And I was like, yo, these dudes are actually breaking again with like jumpsuits and cardboard and shit like that and graffiti in the back. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. Oh, I'll never forget this shit. I went to the Roxy, because the Roxy used to have like these ravey kind of vibe thing, party club things in the city. And I was a young dude, would get in with these DJs. And back then you'd like carry this crate of records and you can get in, but you can't leave. You're in all night. And I was underage, but if you carried the DJ's records in, you got in. So I was in the Roxy, tripping balls. Everybody's like tripping, and I'm in the Roxy. This is legendary Roxy. Okay. Now this is in the 90s, so this is way past the 80s heyday. But I'm seeing a fucking dude in all black do windmills in a little ball. Okay, this is the first time I'd ever seen Munch Mills in a fucking club in New York City. And I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck? This dude did windmills and then made a little ball and he's spinning in a ball. I was like, I didn't know that was possible. Okay? So I'm telling you, I'm getting to this. I told this story like it was fucking, history for years. And I finally connect with Quickstep from Full Circle. And I'm like explaining to him. He's like, what did he look like? I'm like, yeah, he looked like this or that. He goes, that was this guy named German. And I'm like, who's that? He goes, this guy was that dude. He was still going to clubs around that time. And before that, it was like roller skate rinks and shit too. He goes, this guy would literally do all those b-boy moves from the 80s and the late 80s into the 90s with like roller skates on. He was like doing windmills and shit with roller skates on. But this is the first time I had ever seen a b-boy in a club wearing all black with like white kicks. And so in my mind, I was like, this mysterious shit is incredible to me. So that's one of the reasons why for years you would see me in the ciphers with all a black mock neck, black dickies, white shell tops, and a black hat, because I didn't care about the image. I just wanted footwork spinning around, and I wanted to just be a dude who chased all the fucking superstar b-boys around ciphers in circles and smoke them all. And like all these West Coast dudes would come with their sunglasses on, acting like they were the shit. And I just sit and wait for them to fucking finally build up enough nerve to jump in a circle and do their little bullshit. And I would be right on their asses. And they couldn't last more than like 7 rounds because they had their little blow up rounds and they would leave. And then they would try and walk away and go to another circle. And I would literally follow them to their circle again. And I would just wait for them. And if they hesitated, I would go down twice. I would do my round to answer their round. And if they didn't have a response right away, I would literally go right back down. And so dudes were I had a name, Ewok, obviously. But they were going, 2 for 1, 2 for 1. So it started 2 for 1, started to stick for a while. Because my stamina was ridiculous, dude. Like I'm talking about like ridiculous. Yeah.
Literally go in twice. I
remember
that.
And they weren't just bullshit rounds. Like I was doing content. It was like heavy content. And I wouldn't repeat. I wouldn't do shit. Like I was a cypher b-boy that focused on like not repeating, having good style, chasing motherfuckers, and like a solo. So like I was telling Reza, when you look at a crew back then, you'd have a dude who did style, you had a dude who could do air flares, you had one guy who could do head spins, and they were all answers to people's shit. So like if they'd always send out the footwork guy first, and then if someone did footwork back, he had to top his footwork. But if he came out with like a windmill, the next guy coming out had to have a power move that could outdo the windmill. So the footwork guy never could do the windmill or could never do halos or the head spins or fucking windmills or whatever. So like as a solo dude who I never had a crew to fucking fall back on, like that's the thing about New York. I earned my fucking stripes in crews that were battling crews, like Breaks crew and like all these crews. They had multiple people. So like I didn't have someone to fall back on. So if I was in the cypher battling, it's just me in there. Like I got to run on myself. So like I had to do power, style, footwork, stamina, intimidation, like you name it. Like I had to have it all until flips and technique started coming to town. And I fucking loved their shit. But they were the outsiders now. I had already kind of earned my stripes as a solo dude. Because I was going to like Club Shelter and the B-boy scene. So I was all over New York. So I was around like the Step Fiends dudes, the Full Circle dudes, the Rocksteady anniversaries, the random clubs here and there, events. And then when Flips came to town and Technique came to town, homeboys hated these dudes because they were nasty and they were like good-looking Latin kids that all the girls were sweating straight up. So the fucking b-boys in New York hated these dudes. I'm coming from graffiti, where there's like brawls and shit, like street beef, and these dudes are fighting like bitches, arguing in the circle like they're gonna fucking jump dudes. And I was a little older than a lot of them, so I was like, this shit is corny to me. So I'm like, Flips, handle your shit. I got your back. No one's jumping nobody. You just do your thing, and I'm here with you. So I would sit on like Flips, my arms crossed. I'm like next to Flips, next to Tech. These dudes were like killing the game, abstract. They're killing the game. Like a lot of times, shout out to all these dudes, just fan. But like I would hold these dudes down sometimes in these clubs, and like straight up, I was around Flips one night when he's by himself, and these fucking dudes from New York dudes are trying to jump on him in the cipher. They're trying to like just team up and just OD. And Flips is hanging. He's holding his. I'm talking round after round after round by himself. I'm not Skill Methods. I'm just a New York dude. And I'm like, Flips, these dudes are wilding. Relax, I got you. No one's jumping nobody. He's like killing the game. And he leans over to me and he's like, E, I just had fucking hernia surgery. My stitches just ripped. And I can't do shit right now. He's like, please don't let these dudes jump me. Because like I can't fucking do nothing right now. I'm like, dude, damn. So you gotta hold it down. So long story short, like as time would go on, these guys
told me about that
his
hernia mesh
would rip. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Something like that. He'll tell you the stories. He had many surgeries, but anyway, so these dudes were like really having to pay dues, and they did. Don't get me wrong. Like fast forward to now, like everybody knows what the fuck Skill Methods is. But I'm talking about the trenches, dude. Like these guys were really, every time these dudes would set foot in New York, they were fucking entering battles for the money to pay rent so they could survive. These guys were like, we're here to take the money home. Like, I don't care about your feelings. We're here to take this money home and go. These dudes were not feeling it. Now, fast forward, everybody's cool, respect earned, like no doubt, right? Breaks crew is they're still around, and they're all homies. But there was years where they were not letting dudes. Same as graffiti. Like the hometown heroes made you earn that shit right. And when you earned it, cool, you're one of us. Now those guys over there, let's get them.
Kept the quality high.
Kept the quality high, yeah. So back to the New York thing, full circle. I feel like it's just not the same. Like, and I hate to say it currently. Like, I love New York to death, but like, it ain't the same, man. And like, I don't condone a lot of the shit that's going on right now. And like, I'm not out there to compete and argue with motherfuckers on the internet or social media about like what's the right way to do this. And like, if you got fucking people on your dick, like, okay, go ahead. I'm not going to sit here and argue with these people. Like, I'm out. Like, your opportunity for you to have a debate and conversate is done. Like, there's no more conversation. I'm going to go do what I want.
The internet made them so bold to do that?
No, I don't know. I think it's a insecure way of people competing to feel like they're more important. Like, the internet allowed people to like say, I'm really important because I got all these certain followers that believe my fucking bullshit. It's like,
you actually did anything?
Yeah. How are you gonna argue with my bullshit and lies if I have 90,000 followers? It's like, okay, cool. You got a bunch of 14-year-olds following you. Like, have at it, dude. Like, you got that. Yeah, like whatever works, man. Like, some of the dopest dudes ever got like 6,000 followers or whatever. It's like because they're tuned into like different type of demographic. Like, whatever, it is what it is. But
they're not promoting themselves in the right way.
Yeah. Maybe they're not fucking painting with their ass in the fucking camera or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So like, there's a weird tinge to like the internet and all that, but
they're 10 amongst the ones.
Yeah,
they're just happy as hell because they're that 10, but they're not no 100.
Yeah.
Well, do you think there's ever going to be?
I don't know. I mean, I all the interviews you see, they always talk about this kind of shit. Like, they're always like, is it a positive thing or negative thing? Like, I don't know. Who knows? But like, I think as long as there's always going to be people out there doing shit like purists in a sense. Like, don't care about the outcome. Like,
I believe talking about it actually is going to help.
Yeah.
At least to have some type of conversation about it, actually shed some light on it and could possibly help. But I don't think it's gonna be one of those like waving a 16 knuckle finger at somebody.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what it's gonna be. But
Yeah, and be like, you're terrible, so you change where you're doing. Like, that's not, I'm
Right.
not the fucking social media police.
But like something like your
Yeah.
book, I
Yeah.
think is one of the myriad of ways of trying to really like cater to someone's, real
personal
sense.
shit. So like in jiu-jitsu, there's certain dudes that are like legends. Not because they're popular, not because they want to go out and beat. They're just humble motherfuckers. Like, for instance, there's a guy, Marcelo Garcia. He has cancer right now. He's going through a lot of hard times, but he's like the Michael Jordan of fucking jiu-jitsu. He's the nicest guy on earth. The dude he's a killer. The guy's a murderer. Like, the guy is just notorious for like dismantling the biggest dudes, and he's an insane inspiration in jiu-jitsu, right? And he gives away all these free things on YouTube, his secrets. He's not worried about people figuring it out. He's just like, here it is. This is what makes me who I am. Please take it and run with it. So just seeing that, I was like, I know a lot of shit just through trial and error. A lot of my stuff has been failures. A lot of it's been successes. Like, it works long term. I'm like, I want to just give it out to the world and see what people can do with it now. And I don't know everything, but like the shit that I know, it's a quality and a taste level of like, whatever. It's a perspective that I want to share. And like everybody that's around me, is always like, wow, like, how do you do this? And how do you do that? You're like a mad scientist or whatever. So like, I want to just put it out there because I feel like people will appreciate it. And like 20 years from now, someone's going to come up and be like, how the fuck did you guys figure that shit out back in 97? Yada, 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 whatever. So like, I just feel like people will appreciate it. And
the only thing that I have a bit of apprehension about stuff like that is the same way how like the guy who made what is that, the Texas whiskey just gave the recipe away, and the guy, what's his name, Jack Daniels, took it.
See,
you get what I'm saying?
So, yeah.
That was y'all heard about that before?
I don't know.
That's literally how it was made.
I think I say it in like the intro, like, I don't want you to fucking take this and think it's a cheat code. It's not a cheat code. Like, it ain't like the answers to all this shit. But if you're willing to pay attention, that's another thing. Like, I wanted to use the tone of my book is talking to like a homie. Like, it's two people at a bar talking. I'm not pontificating. I'm not being a teacher telling this is exactly how it has to be done. It's a homie talking how if you're willing to listen, I'm willing to talk. You feel me? Like, so don't waste my time if you're not willing to listen. But if you're willing to listen, I'm willing to sit here and explain to you things. And so, like, yeah, there's motherfuckers out there that are probably going to pick the book up and feel like it's a cheat code.
Have you ever taken anyone under your wing?
Yeah, technique. That's what a lot of this shit came from, me teaching technique. I started to talk out loud about the things that I had been doing internally. And he's starting to realize, he's like, you got like a language that like you're saying all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you're kind of right. Like, I never thought about it, but like, I would make comparisons when it comes to color and like certain things. And then years later, I would talk to somebody else and I would use the same comparisons and I would say things the same way. And I started to realize, like, I legit have like a weird formulaic approach to shit. And people are always like, yo, you got great colors. Your pieces got cool colors. And I'm like, A, thank you. That's cool. But B, I don't look at colors. I look at numbers. I look at a color. It's a 1 to 10 scale. And each color falls into a number. And in my mind, there's a formula. If you're doing light fills and a dark outline, there's a mathematical thing. So every time I pick my colors, there's numbers. And if one of those numbers doesn't make sense in the 1 to 10 scale, your piece is going to look like shit. Just fact. This is like tried and true shit. So I'm not looking at the colors. It could be grayscales. It could be fucking full color. I promise you. The formula, if you follow it, it makes sense. It's a no-fail thing. And the problem that confuses me is that you got so-called legends who are supposed to be in the game for 50 years, 40, 50 years. And yeah, they may be good at certain things, but they're missing shit that makes no fucking sense. And there's no one around them to check them. So no one ever mentions certain things, and they're doing certain things that don't make sense.
If you mean don't make sense, are you talking
color-wise? Color-wise, yeah. Of course, there's certain letter.
That's the old adage. Like, let me just throw everything at it, everything in the crate.
Yeah, and there's elements to this. Like, I talk also about it. Like, yes, you look at the subway photos; they're historic. I'm talking about color formula, but let's keep it real. maybe they rack their paint. They don't have that many options. So there's an element of like, you got to use what you got.
That's just the situation.
But then there's motherfuckers that got a zillion colors and there's no excuses. So I talk about all this stuff. And it's just interesting read. And I've been sending certain chapters to certain people that I know are going to pick up on them. And they hit me back and they're like, motherfucker, the whole book is like this. And they're like, what the fuck, dude? And I'm like, yeah. But I'm like,
let me
that's,
ask you something.
you know.
To roll it back a little bit. So you took technique as your student, right? What is it? I find it to be quite difficult because as much as you have to be a quality teacher, you find quality student.
For sure.
Because not everyone is teachable.
Exactly.
Fact,
exactly.
Most
exactly.
What is it about technique as a person that lend well to him being a
good student? Yeah, he saw what I was doing in real time at the time, and he had a thirst and a hunger and a drive. And he was the right place at the right time, man. Like we were housemates at one point. It was me, him, and my homie C's MSK, and a couple other people came and went at the time. But like he just saw me and C's painting a lot, and he saw I was painting every weekends, and we were all selling the ciphers, killing it. Like
I remember.
So he just at the right times was just like, "Yo, I want to fucking learn how to paint." And I'm like, "Jesus Christ, dude!"
I only bring that up because
it was from scratch. Yeah.
Every now and again, people who
approach
want to learn. Yeah. It's like as if they have their black book and they say, "Here, sign my black book," or "I want you to show me how to rock a black book," and all the pages written on. Yeah. So sometimes I ask other people of my caliber, like,
sure.
Every now and again, when you reach our caliber, as we have, where we find ourselves where we can teach because now we know the art.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they come out of the woodwork, and when they do, we find ourselves, all right, well, how am I going to teach this when this person right here can't listen? Or how am I going to teach this? And he's just going to take the sweet part, not taking the rind. I'm going to take the white part of the bread and not the crumbs. Like, not really going to better themselves. They're just going to use it as like an extra weapon.
Yeah.
How do you process that, being that you may find yourself in a situation like that where they basically take advantage?
Well, like I said, like if you're willing to listen, I'm willing to talk. If I hear that you're trying to, like, I've had people who they want to be around me just because they know that they're going to pick up some traits. And then when you finally get to a point where you're like explaining something, they'll cut you off. Like, oh yeah, I know about that. And you just start talking. So I'm just like, cool, dude. Like, you got it all figured out. Like, do your thing. Like, have at it. But yeah, the best students are the ones who are willing to listen. Like, I think Bruce Lee was like, you can't fill a cup up unless you empty it and whatever. It's like, it's too full. You're not going to fit nothing in. It's going to overflow. You have to be willing to learn. And like in b-boying, the best students are the ones who are like listeners. In jiu-jitsu, they want to learn. They're like not like the worst students in jiu-jitsu is when you show them a technique and they go, well, what about if they do this? What happens if they do? It's like, dude, just shut up and fucking drill it.
Learn the technique.
Like, don't ask me questions till you later understand why you're being taught this way. Like, the worst person is the one who like questions and challenges it all until later you figure it out. Like in jiu-jitsu, I hate to say it, but like the dumber you are almost, the better you are at learning. The most incredible jiu-jitsu dudes may not be the brightest dudes.
Or is it innocent?
It's willing. It's the beginner's mind is the best learning mind. And if you can keep that like sponge mentality forever, you're always going to learn. And so like Luigi was the most incredible student. And the only reason I think they opened the books for him was because of how fucking humble and willing to listen he was. That dude was he was already incredible. But when he fucking got down with the crew, that dude went fucking sky's the limit. He was gone. That dude was gone. Yeah, shout out to Luigi. He's always like inspiring till this day. Because
my son.
Yeah, because like that dude would literally rock anybody. But if somebody gave him like a little pointer, that dude was like, hold up, let me go try that. And like I saw him hungry, like willing to listen. Other people would be like, nah, I'm do this my way. And they were going to do an L kick and some dumb shit and some stupid shit. It's like, or whatever, right? Like, yeah, rather some dumb shit. But like the best students, b-boy, graffiti, whatever, dance, anything, are the ones who like are never satisfied and want to always learn. And you can learn from, you could be the best and learn from someone who just started because they may have tried something you never thought of. You know what I'm saying?
During a teaching time,
yeah.
Right? Actually, not to cut you off.
That's right.
But like during a teaching time, do you find that when you try to teach a student that you find yourself at a tug of war match with trends of the time?
That could come up. I mean, I don't. I mean, if you want to pick up on some trends, go for it. But you know, I try to explain like why it's not timeless. You want timeless shit. You want shit that's timeless, not some flavor of the month shit.
Yeah. So like at the time, like let's say early thousands or whatnot, MSK was big, right? So there was a lot of people trying to do this wisp like that with a circle on the end and stuff like that, and all these little like serifs and stuff like that, almost Cali style. So even if you were trying to explain to them like the basis of the letter,
oh, I see why you.
I just
Yeah.
throw a little swoop here with a little circle, and everyone looks like all these different things, and they're all trying their damnedest, and you're like, yeah, that's fine. That's something like that. I always wondered, like, if the same kind of pull happened in New York around you. Because Atlanta is so not emboldened like how New York is.
Sure.
I wondered.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I remember when. It's funny because like I was always kind of paying attention to outside of New York while I was painting with the New Yorkers who just only looked in New York. Like some of these older dudes just didn't care about what was going on outside, and I had already knew about like Revoke and the West Coast dudes because I was cool with like Norm, San Francisco, went out there. So I had already, and C's was an out of towner dude who kind of inspired, gave me like the AM7, Florida, a little bit of Cali. And I was already aware of what was going on outside of New York. So when these dudes were coming to New York, I was like, yo, but I want to set up a wall with these LA dudes because they're really dope. And I think it would be really cool if we put them in New York on a wall and, you know, open the red carpet to put them on the New York wall. These dudes, I'll tell you, were fucking so annoying. Like these New York guys. Who? What? LA? Nah. I'm like, homie, listen, I know you don't know who the fuck I'm talking about. Just let me organize this wall this weekend and trust me, they're good dudes. Kicking and screaming, I put these dudes down on the wall and then they finally figured it out. Yo, like that year, these motherfuckers went on a rampage and they started to travel around a lot more. And, you know, not soon after, like you just said, a lot of dudes in New York City were picking up West Coast styles because of these dudes were on the tear. They were crushing it at the time. So, you know, this is around a time when styles were starting to mix up too. Like the internet was sort of new and like people were kind of like a new writer from Brooklyn would be like copying off of like an LA style. And then, you know, it's just because it was like something that they figured was like a cool thing at the time. It's easier to like copy off something on the internet than it is to learn from like the homie. And then, and so I never had that problem with people trying to like just do trendy shit, but like there's no shortage of that shit, dude. Like there's no shortage of people chomping on whatever's new at the time. I mean, every fucking year there's like some new shit that everybody would jump on.
What were you gonna ask?
I mean, as you
same
know,
in b-boying, right? Same thing happens in b-boying.
Sure. Yeah. That's why I was gonna ask, because I was like, okay, so obviously, you know, you've been around the block a few times. What do you feel like is your role as an OG to pass along to the next generation? Is it just to say, hey, here's what I've learned, I'm putting it out there, it's up to you to pick it up? Do you actually like actively try to like look for people who are hungry for that shit? Like, how do you feel about?
I mean, I don't look to teach anybody. Like, for instance, technique comes from a very solid traditional, sorry, not tradition, but foundational b-boy outlook and approach. He wanted the self-portrait of himself as a graffiti writer as he did as his style in dancing. So I could only show him as much as I could show him what I know. But there was a certain point where I was like, you have the basics, the structure and this and that, but what you're seeking is coming from like the FBAs, the TC5s, the FC dudes. And like I said, these are the dudes you need to go talk to. That's kind of like I gave him his like, and then it's like, here, now you have to go and hunt down
so you're also facilitator.
You gotta go, it's like the kung fu dude that's like, you gotta go up this mountain and talk to this master. He's the one, and he'll give you the next piece.
Now you gotta
And straight up, he went to the source that he wanted, and he got his, and they embraced him. They saw his interest, and they embraced him, and he's continued his path in that direction. It just depends on what you want to do as an artist, like as a letters. Teal,
the exact
same shit, same exact shit,
same lane, everything.
Yeah,
it was beautiful that it worked out that way.
Yeah. I think especially if you're coming from a b-boy background, you have a certain look to your style of dance. it only makes sense that you're going to find and seek that as a graffiti writer. You're going to go to that source. And so, but then again, you could look at a certain b-boy that maybe dances a little different. Like, let's say if Cloud wanted to go become a graffiti writer, he's going to go in a different direction because he's more of a he's trying to do things that maybe haven't been seen yet with a heritage.
Go towards a graffiti writer. Stylistically. Who?
I mean, I don't know. I can't even think about it. But there's
it's one of those things.
Maybe it might just be a different approach.
Fantasy football.
He might just create a different approach to it that we haven't seen yet, or whatever. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Maybe it wouldn't even be.
Maybe
it should be street art.
Something. Yeah. Who knows? But like, for instance, I think, again, talking about the book, like if you're gonna do graffiti, it should be a self-portrait of who you are. I mean, like a physical picture of you. I mean, like it should look like your characteristics, your personality, your lettering and everything, your complexity, your process, your choice of this and that should sort of be, if it in its truest form, it should be a reflection of who you are. So if you're doing it incorrectly, it's going to be weird to me. So I remember going to LA and meeting a bunch of surf dudes, and they had the craziest b-boy characters and like surfy letters, and I was like, it's really good, but I go to your house and there's like surfboards and you're all like hippie dudes. Like, this is weird. Doesn't match your personality. Like, this is you're emulating this New York thing, but you guys are like the hippiest. It's just the weirdest shit ever. So whatever.
Is it good?
I mean, if that's what you're trying to do, is that shit is cool, but like, you know, where's the?
Didn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, where's the personality in it?
In the emulation,
you know what I'm saying?
People like doing that stuff, right? I want to know, like, for you, I feel like a lot of graffiti writers start to emulate their best impression of a fine arts person, gallery artist.
Mm.
Where do we as graffiti writers, especially the New York scene, fall in the gallery world in New York? Like, does graffiti work in galleries?
It's a tough one because you got people who are been around long enough and maybe didn't get their dues that are maybe now blossoming and getting their credit and getting the shine that, you know, some, like I might say, they deserved it all along, but maybe they didn't get it. So a lot of guys right now are getting a ton of like coverage and shows. That doesn't necessarily mean they're getting the financial reward that they may have deserved for being around that long. So like that's a whole nother talk, dude. Like, just getting shows doesn't mean shit. Like, you got to be selling big fucking money to get anything credible. Like, there's fucking blue chip street artists and like goofy artists that came out last year that are already selling for like 300,000 in like these weird art circles. More power to you, but I'm talking about people who've been in the New York City underground graffiti world for like 40 years and they've been struggling their whole lives.
Can't pay your fucking rent with respect,
yeah,
right?
like, I mean, there's dudes like Ram LZ and people who passed away that are like phenomenal, unique motherfuckers that like never got the fucking real, true platform that they deserved. You know what I'm saying? And you got guys like Futura, Hayes, you know, Mayor, and people who are getting credit and stuff and getting put in like really big things. But it's like, it's 2023, and like, you know, some of these guys, don't get me wrong, I've been doing it consistently, but like, there's a lot of people who are really struggling to try and get put on. And I see it to this day, and it's just not a rat race I choose to play in. To me, graffiti is like the love that I have when I'm painting a wall. It's me and my fucking piece and the homies that I'm chilling next to. And it's the experience that happens with me in that little space that when I leave, I go back to my life. And if I'm painting something that I want to sell to a collector, it doesn't have to be graffiti unless they specifically want something that I do in graffiti. Otherwise, I'm just creating a piece of art that's now in my timeline of creations in my life.
I bring that up because I'm really trying to see something that is gallery work obsolete in the year 2023, similar to how, like, let's just say we sell our stuff solely to collectors, right?
Yeah.
In a way, as weird as this is going to sound, it's almost like an OnlyFans of art.
Absolutely.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Right. So it's like,
I think that's
have to go to a strip
I think that's
strip literally.
That's literally how the art world has evolved, and I kind of pulled out of the gallery world about 10 years ago, maybe a little longer. If you see me in a show now, it's just as a favor. But I realized early on, I did shows early on before a lot of people. I did a shitload of shows all over the world. I understood early on that you're not going to get the money you deserve. Why am I giving 50%, 40% to a guy who just puts a nail on a wall and turns a light on? And my collectors are coming to buy it anyway? Like, what the fuck is this, dude? I spent a year and a half, 2 years on one piece, and you get a giant cut for hanging it up. So I started to kind of, in a sense, boycott that gallery shit show, and I sell direct to my collectors now, and I get 100%. To me, that
New
was
York, is that like kind of like a gallery cabal in a way?
it's
Like
a
they're
it's a,
gatekeeping?
the gatekeeping, dude. I mean, you're talking about all the right shit because all this shit is literally in my book. There's a chapter called Gatekeepers. Like, this is all stuff that's been on my mind for years now. So it's gonna piss a lot of people off. But anyway, to me, selling directly to your collector is the most punk rock gangster shit you can do because it says fuck you to all that, the middleman and the scene and the gatekeepers that try to act like they're running the shit. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I sell to a person that I look in the eye. I know where my piece is going, and they're coming back for another one in a year because there's a relationship built. They're literally waking up every day and looking at the piece that I sold them, and they're buying it because they like it, not because of some hype bullshit. It's not going into a plastic bag, into a storage unit, being sold for like stocks and bonds and half of the shit. Like some of these dudes, I don't want to get into it, but yeah. I think the best route would be to sell to collectors because it just bypasses everything. And there's people like literally still just want to play the gallery game. And maybe it works for them. Maybe they're factory cranking out work that they can just put it all over the place and it just overall works for them.
I feel like then, like,
I don't work like that.
Your collector base could be broadened with the use of the internet.
Sure.
So it really makes that old paradigm obsolete.
It's not obsolete. There is still a cabal, as you said, that literally is there's like, this is a topic I've spoken to other fine artists like oil painters in New York, and they're literally saying to me, and this makes sense, that there's like the gatekeepers at the top that literally say like for the next 5 years we're gonna only sell like this guy who does the big blow up plastic dolls, the dogs. What's his name? The dogs, the big dogs. It looks like a balloon folded up.
Animal and shit,
Yeah, and then the next year or the year before it was this other guy, and it's just like, and Damien Hirst had his moment, and it's like these guys say like they bring in this like art, this persona, and they pimp this persona and they milk it for all it's worth, and then 2 years from now they're gonna pick up somebody else, and then you got these guys who are like making tons of money, but there's a sea of people who are just trying to brown nose and schmooze in these galleries and get put on the next show. You know what I mean? And 1 year it was like Murakami blew up, but whatever. These are just people that they pick and choose who. I mean, this is like $1 billion market sales for a year, in like the different gallery houses in New York City and the auction houses and stuff, and like these these galleries that I'm talking about that are setting the pace for this shit have like 20 galleries around the world, and so they'll say to this artist, "Hey, you're gonna have a show in 2 years. Here's a studio. You're gonna make 45 paintings, 60 paintings, 100 paintings, whatever they pick. Here's 100 grand. When those 100 paintings come back, we're gonna have your opening show. We're gonna promote your show. We're gonna send them out to all our other places. But these collectors now are gonna say, right off the top, here's 50 of them. The paintings are gonna go into our stores because our 100 paintings. They just basically paid you for 100 paintings. 50 of them are gonna go into the storage unit for when you die and you overdose because your miserable life. Now your paintings are now super expensive. And those other ones we're going to send out to our galleries and all the rich people that we know are going to buy them because it's the hype market.
Well, it's probably a lot of analog to like the music world, right? It's like, okay, you have the kind of top 40, right? Where it's like, we're going to push these artists.
Yeah.
And there's a huge market of people who are like,
trying to get
them to be told what to listen to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then there's another group of people who actually legitimately understand the art or are interested in the art for the art's sake.
Yeah.
And so those are the people that are going to come to you directly.
Yeah.
And then the galleries are for these people who are like, I don't even know what's good. Really? You tell me what's good.
Exactly,
oh, that's good?
Exactly. Yeah, and they don't. Their painting's ugly, but they buy it because they think it's going to be worth money.
Well, moreover, that's the biggest part of that is a lot of these big money people. Art is truly an
investment. Yeah, I mean that's the one thing they say, that if you have enough money and you got all your bases covered, buy art, because it never loses value; it only goes up. And of course, when the dude dies, it's gonna skyrocket more. Anyway, but like you just said about the music, the same comparison is now the artist that used to have a record label got huge. Then the record company says, "Your time's up. We're moving on to these new guys."
Right.
But the fans still follow that group.
Right.
They get the catalog back, and now they're going on tours and they're making all their money and selling merch. They're no longer stuck to that gallery or music label, but they're huge. Like fucking Rage Against the Machine does a concert, all the fans come out, or fucking whoever. So like, that's why I said it's like punk rock. Like all these bands back in the day were like, fuck a record label. We're gonna, all you gotta spend is like $2,000. You get a bunch of records made, and you're selling yourself. You know,
some on the back of the truck.
Yeah. Now it's like these bands still touring to this day because their fans follow them. You have the fan base that carries you. You know what I'm saying? So.
And they own their masters.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I kind of laugh in a sense. I'm not trying to like talk down to people, but like I laugh when I see all these assholes trying to chase this fucking carrot with the gallery scenes, because it's like, homie, like they're not picking you. You're not in their you're not ever gonna do it. Like, it's like you're not gonna get in. Yeah, there's gatekeepers that are not checking you. And like I talk to certain people and they're like, listen, when a thirsty, broke motherfucker comes in the room, there's a stench. All the rich people know that motherfucker is desperate as fuck. And they literally don't want that around. So like, the best thing you could do is say, fuck all you, I don't want anything from you. And then they're gonna come.
Maybe then they'll want you.
Yeah, whatever. So like, I'm not that brown noser kissing ass, and I've seen it, bro. I've been in these shows where I see dudes laugh. And I'm like, oh shit, I see what he's doing. Like, that dude's corny as fuck. I don't want nothing to do with that shit. And I'm like, I'm out. I'm gonna go create some cool shit, and my peoples will buy it, and I'll take care of them, you know, and I only can make so much work. But dude, I got some of the craziest collectors ever. Like, you wouldn't even believe the types of people who buy from me. It's wild.
Do you ever find yourself, when you actually do, you know, kind of the gallery crawl or anything like that, do you see like, you know, people who are famous in there that have no business being there, or even like political people that show up to these things like that, especially such a niche art world as we're in?
Yeah.
Do you ever see some people like, wait a minute?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it comes down to that artist, the eye of the beholder type of thing. So like, I see things to this day, I'm like, what the fuck is that? But hey, there's a market for it. There's people buying it. So like, you know, I'm not into it, but you know,
whenever you're in those situations, you know, I feel like you have a strong sense of what's going on, like societally, like politically and societally.
Yeah.
Whenever you see some of those people there, do you ever find yourself wanting to just fucking hit them in with a damn eye or some shit?
It just reminds me like why I like to go out and write on shit. You know, it's just like my way of saying fuck you to stuff like that. But you know, it is what it is, man. That's the industry. But again, I'm not trying to fit into that shit, so I don't care what they do anymore.
But them being there is almost like,
it's weird. It is weird. And you know, and I you know, I've met people that are the most terrible artists, and they're like literally high up in this fucking culture, like, and they've been doing it for years, and I'm just like, their work's terrible, but they're nice people. So I'm like, all right, well, you know, I'm more impressed at like, how the fuck did you get where you got?
They know how to play the game,
being that terrible. Like, I worked on an installation for a big piece of art. I paid a lot of money to help realize a piece of art that this artist couldn't do themselves. This artist was in all the lanes that I was talking to you about, how to fuck press, PR campaign, the whole gallery presence, the everything press, pushing it, deadline for this installation to get made. And I'll tell you, the day they fucking brought out the drawing, the original drawings, and they put them on the floor of this big installation that was going to get made, I looked at the people next to me. I'm like, what the fuck is this? It looked like a little kid drew this shit. And I'm just like, how the hell are we supposed to take that and build something out of that? It looks terrible. Like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. And it's not even saying like they're not good creative artists, but they could not even execute visually their plan of what they wanted to get made. It was horrible. The end result was like it turned into some other shit, and I'm just like, this is insane, the money that they threw at this person. And I'm like, do you have any clue what I would do if I had the same opportunity? Like, it's insane. It's insane. It's really insane.
To get like the big ass walls, and like, you know, they got some giant, you know, skyscraper wall, and they come in there with like a paintbrush, and they're
it's terrible. I mean,
Have you thought
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
the
like,
logistics
you
of it in any way?
really think about this.
Opportunities are weird, man. And like the older you get, you see just wild shit in the world, man. You just see, and it comes back to seeing shit where you're like, this dude is not only doesn't deserve it, but he's actually a toxic person in the world, and they still get rewarded with shit, and it just boggles the mind.
Well, that's what I mean. Like when you see these kind of people that are toxic.
Yeah. Like really fucked up people that are like getting put on with shit. It's crazy.
Do you ever like feel like there should be some type of checks and balance there for that? The fact that
yeah, you could always say that. I mean, I just don't see it as like it's not gonna be like there's
like
no
as there being a gate. As we kind of call back to what you had mentioned before about like these gatekeepers that kind of keep fine quality of writer that show up. Why are there not those kind of things like that in that world?
Because money talks, man. If you can, you know, if you can pimp somebody and make money and trick the buyer to thinking they just got something that's valuable, that's really what the art world is these days. Take somebody that they can pimp the hardest, get the most out of it, and maybe they don't know that much, so they're not going to question what the situation is, and they're just going to use them. Then they're going to use them again. Somebody else is going to get used. I mean, you don't want. That's why I think like real established art galleries are looking for new talent because they don't really know the way of the world yet. Most times, I mean, the more experience you get a fan base. So that's a different animal. Somebody wants to bring somebody back that has a big fan base. But a lot of times they're trying to find that new person because they don't really understand what's going on yet, and they can pimp them the most when they're young. So like I went to school with a specific person at the time. I'm not going to mention names, but she is huge now. And there's nothing really special about her other than the fact that she's just been working for the past 20 years. Naturally, you're just going to get good at it. But she's in the right lanes, and you know you can respect her work ethic and her hustle. But when you backtrack it, there's nothing really that you can pinpoint why that person got to where they are now based on what they had, other than just being in the right circles. And I'm sure if you spoke to this person at the time, maybe they have a terrible fucking memory of like getting jerked by this gallery and jerked by that gallery. Maybe they finally figured it out, but
was she herself like malleable?
No, I mean it's not like she got molded into anything.
Sellable, like
I guess it was sellable. Yeah, maybe she was pretty. I don't know. That's a whole nother angle. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird way to look at the world. As you get older, you start seeing things you can't figure out. But I just stopped giving a fuck and just do what I gotta do. And you know, most important to me is just creating a great legacy of my own work. And you know, less is more, always.
Well, more is less.
More or less, more the less.
Mr.EWOKONE, New York City. Welcome to Atlanta.
Yes.
On the Terminus City podcast, brother. Listen,
I'm hyped, man. We can do it again.
We've known each other for 25 years or better.
Exactly.
And it's almost like time never really like affects you and I. We always like come together, and then like we just have like a great time, and then go live in our respective worlds, and then we come back and do all this kind of stuff. I really want to do this kind of stuff with you more. Yeah,
man. Again. I'm trying to make it happen.
I want the world to open its doors to you to be able to have all your creative stuff out there. So,
you know, by hook or by crook,
looking forward to the book too, because obviously we barely scratched the surface on half the stuff. So.
You guys got a sneak peek. I brought a little something for you guys.
I'm trying to go deep into it is something that's gonna be. I'm gonna take my time with.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a deep one. So
once you actually got the book together and
with images, with images and shit.
I'd like to do a review on it.
And, it's mostly text. I'd say it's about 60% words, and I'm gonna have images to tie back to it. But I think the last thing the graffiti world needs is another photo book. So this is actually like some deep shit that can be around for 20 years. And
I think it's needed, man. I think these kind of things are needed because the conversation is never had.
Sure.
Rarely is it had, and most of the people who even have any kind of voice in it, or even the credentials to even talk,
don't.
Pretty dim. You know, I'm trying to be nice.
Because
I'm trying to earn my wings back into heaven. But I mean, really, like you gotta kind of scratch your head sometimes because sure, you might have particular people who actually understand the art and know it well, but just can't put it together well enough to explain it to somebody to help them in their own personal growth.
Sure.
I think you definitely are concise enough to have that. I think that may
I worked
be,
hard for it, so yeah, I definitely worked hard on it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it's taken. But I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm sick of it already. Like I fucking OD'd on it. Just I had to step away from it. Like my brain was just in it too long. I had to just get away from it. So the next process is the layout with the imagery and stuff to tie back to examples, as you said, show the receipts.
Right. Well, we can't wait. Us as BurnUnit, we definitely can't wait. But moreover, like just for the world of graph and for art and sale, I want it.
Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you, family. Family so much. Family.
It's elementary, they want us all gone eventually. It's elementary, they want us all gone eventually.